This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
It's Thursday, the final day of August the 31st. So glad to have you along on the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Coming up today, she's the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. And I know some of you are already ticked off about it because she's out there saying Trump can't win. But I don't care. I think she has a fascinating personal biography, and we've talked to her before. Last time I think was at CPAC. Her name is Winsome Sears. She has an amazing biography, and she has put it all together in a brand new book, which tells me generally when politicians write books, they have future political aspirations. So I'll ask her what she thinks she's going to do. You know, in Virginia, they only have one term as governor, and then they're done. So Youngkin's done after his 4 years. Could that be where she's heading? What does she think about the presidential race? And just generally, you know, she really rose to prominence along with Youngkin on the issue of education. And kind of an unprecedented earthquake of an election in Virginia, those two both, Youngkin and Winsome Sears. It was on the issue of schools and education. Does she think that's the ticket for the Republicans in 2024? We'll get into that. Sadly, the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, has another episode. We'll get into what that means. And some new rules, speaking of school, not only the LGBTQ crap, but of course, you got judges ruling against schools' religious liberties, parents, that is, specifically. Philadelphia is already doing some masks and social distance requirements for the new school year if COVID should occur, and AI scanning of backpacks now when kids go into school. It's, if ever there were a time, just a little self-indulgent note, if ever there were a time, if you're a parent, to start thinking about relocating your kids to a different education situation, be it homeschool or a private Christian school, I couldn't more highly advocate it. Christine and I do this podcast called Making the Leap. I hope you'll check it out and take a listen and start thinking about it. Public school is not exactly trending in the right direction. Going to talk about this kid with the Don't Tread on Me patch on his bag, too. He's become a bit of a viral sensation. John Ruhlman, the guy at usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, he sponsors this show, and he wants to help you save money on your health insurance costs. 877-410-4321. If you buy your own health insurance for you, your family, for your small business, if you're a senior on a fixed income or a young person with no health insurance, there is no excuse. John works with 80 different private insurers to get you the best rates and the best coverage. You've just got to make the phone call. It takes you a couple of minutes to put your plan up against what he can find. Maybe he saves you big money. Why wouldn't you want to work with him? Why wouldn't you want to make that call? You could save 30 to 60% of what you're spending on healthcare premiums right now with one phone call today. 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. So here's a little of it. I guess we'll play it. It's really more of a visual because the visual of this is, I'm sure most of you have probably seen it by now. I put it up right away on social media when I saw it because this is just so... The human being in all of us sees it. If you've ever had loved ones who've gotten on in years and start to decline and fail, on a human level, it's sad. All of us are mortals. All of us will fail. All of us will falter. And then eventually all of us will die. It's going to happen to every one of us. The difference is most of us, I think, and our families, most of us want to do this in privacy and dignity. And then there are people like these who are inexplicable. Their families, the people around them, and then the people themselves. I can't explain these people. Can you? Can you explain what motivates one, their families, their loved ones? Hang in there. I don't care how bad it gets. I don't care how embarrassing it is. I don't care what it looks like on national television for all the world to see. I don't care. You just hang in there. Dianne Feinstein, no idea where she was. Just say yes. Just vote yes. So you've been home for 3 months. I have not. I've been right here voting. No, you haven't. You've been in California for the last 3 months. Yeah, check the record, Bob. I've been right here. She hadn't. John Fetterman, he goes without saying. But then this is the leader of one of the parties on Capitol Hill. Second time this has happened now. In mid-sentence, talking to the press.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Mumbles a minute, locks up, and then just goes into that frozen stare, and then a staffer springs into
Did
action.
you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026? All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator Penny.
Calls for another staffer to spring into action. She's trying to find the kill switch on his back to reboot him. He recalibrates.
Somebody else have a question? Please speak up.
Now, I'm sure there's been a discussion inside their offices about what this is and what needs to happen when it happens again. I really can't figure out for the life of me why human beings, people around this man, his family, the Senate, whomever, I don't know, pick who would be closest to this guy. I don't know who it would be, whoever you want to pick. I can't figure out why they wouldn't say, let's call it a day. I can't figure out why they wouldn't say, let's take a break. I can't figure out why they wouldn't say, let's go to a doctor. I can't figure out why they wouldn't issue a more robust statement on what's happening. If they're that confident that this is no big deal, which I don't know how you make that sales pitch. Do you know many people that do this? Is this common to see people just lock up into a fixed stare, unable to communicate for 30, 60 seconds at a time? Is that common, Fast Eddie?
No.
You explain that away with allergies, or? Because he came back and he told a little joke the last time it happened. I told the president I got sandbagged. You know, and Biden, who's very mindful at any moment, he can trip and fall and look like an infirm, hospice patient himself. Aware of this, he's down in Florida yesterday. He gets the question. Hey, old Mitch and I are friends. We're pals. We're buddies. I haven't talked to him yet. I'm well aware. It happens to the best of us. Yes, because you're octogenarians. And I don't mean to be ageist, because I know there are many, many healthy, virile, vital, robust octogenarians out there who walk and exercise and take great care of themselves and are sharp as tacks. And I don't know. What do you say about it? It's a bipartisan problem. Fetterman, Feinstein, McConnell, Biden. Is this America's best? Is this really the best we have? Set partisanship aside. Set their lunatic agendas aside for a second. Set Mitch McConnell's agenda aside. Is this the best of Kentucky, California, Pennsylvania, the United States? These people are the only people that can win elections and represent states in the nation, regardless of your party position. So then the next thing you have to ask yourself when you answer the question, obviously, no, this is not the country or these individual states' best. If your answer is no, which all of us, every sane person knows this is not our best, everyone's embarrassed. Nobody wants Biden around. The husk embarrasses even Democrats. They want rid of him too. So what does that lead you to conclude? What we've said all along, what Newt Gingrich said over the weekend. These people aren't running anything. Who's running them then if they're incapacitated? And isn't that the better question? Yes, on a human level, feel sorry for these frail old puppets. In one sense. In another sense, feel angry because these people are incapacitated and they can't do their jobs, which means someone's doing it for them. Who are they? And what's their agenda? The husk isn't running the country. Mitch McConnell is clearly not in a capacity to run the Senate. John Fetterman, I mean, that goes without saying. He was a dope before he had a stroke. And then Dianne Feinstein, I mean, that's elder abuse. She's got kids fighting over her estate. That's nothing more than a sad old woman whose kids are circling her like vultures, waiting to pick the carcass clean. They need mom to just keep showing up so they can collect the checks for as long as possible. So who's casting their votes? Who's making their decisions? Who's leveraging their office? And folks, let me just tell you something. If you doubt me on this, you shouldn't. The power these senators have, the power their offices, you type a letter on letterhead with their names on it and their signatures, things happen. Mountains move. Don't doubt me. These people are surrounded by dozens of paid staff, chiefs of staff, advisors, and on and on. I've talked about this before. You know the stories of old people who are often locked away and abused, and whoever their abuser is continues to collect and cash their Social Security checks. Think of that, only a very powerful government office with letterhead and your electronic signature on documents. Because that's what it is. You know, some abusive kid locks his parent away, has access to the bank account and power of attorney. You've heard of those awful stories? Now, make it the government version. Who are the people behind these people with total access to these people's office, the power of their office, and ushering and issuing proclamations, declarations, inquiries, God knows what, with their official signatures on it? Because that's what's going on. All day, every day, just so you know. And it's a bipartisan issue. That's the leader of the Senate for the Republicans. Donald Trump has raised $20 million in the month of August. Donald Trump has raised more than $9.4 million just on the mugshot alone, $20 million in the month of August. Nobody's coming close in terms of fundraising. Moderators for the second GOP debate have been unveiled. What do you think about this? Dana Perino from America's Newsroom and Stuart Varney from Fox Business. The debate, September 27th at the Reagan Library. You like that matchup? Stuart Varney, Dana Perino. What are you saying there, Fast Eddie?
I like the pick of Varney. I think he'll do a good job. Perino, I'm not, don't 100% know yet because I've seen her kind of lob softballs at Josh Shapiro, so I need convincing for Perino.
What do you want from a moderator of a Republican debate?
I'd actually, if they had stats to challenge what the people are saying, I think that is important. Usually that's left for other candidates, I know. But if you can call someone on their BS immediately, I think that's powerful.
Okay. Canada warns travelers to the United States about anti-LGBTQ laws. Canada is warning its travelers to the United States they may face discrimination and possible harassment because of dozens of recently passed state laws to target LGBTQ people. The Canadian government, in an update yesterday to Canadians considering a trip to the United States, that they should, quote, check relevant state and local laws before visiting, warning that, quote, some states have enacted laws and policies that may affect 2S LGBTQI plus persons. Can you name the state that this would apply to exactly? What state is Canada advising its people to be leery of? Which one? Sincerely, I'm asking. Which one of the lower 48 or Hawaii and Alaska, I guess I'll throw them in there too, which of the 50 states is Canada warning its 2S LGBTQI plus persons of exactly?
Chris, I've played golf with a lot of Canadians in Florida.
Is it Florida specifically they're warning about? Which state? I mean, is this a subversive dig at specifically DeSantis? I don't like, which state are they warning? Sincerely, like, I don't. If you had the Canadian government official who issued this proclamation sitting in front of me right now, I'd say, which state in particular would you say that Canadians should be leery of when visiting? Sincere question. Like, get as creative in the left-wing mind as you want. Which state of the union do you think people who are gay, or whatever all these letters and symbols stand for these days, any and all of these people, which state in particular, can you creatively get there? Because they don't specify. Canada's warning comes amid a historic year. Of course, the Hill very excited to report this. Comes amid a historic year for anti-LGBTQ state legislation in the United States, with nearly 500 bills introduced by lawmakers in 46 states. At least 83 have become law, more than doubling last year's total. You know what they're talking about, don't you? I'm being cute here. You know what they're calling laws that these 2S LGBTQIA plus people should be leery of. You know what the laws are? What? Transgender butchery on children. That's what all these laws are. Everything that they're warning Canadians about, these travel advisories, the Hill reporting 500 bills, 46 states, 83 have become law. I'll guarantee you every single one of them has to do with butchering minor children and trying to change their gender. I'll bet you every one of them is. Every one. All 83 of the 500 bills, the 83 that passed, I'll guarantee, are all pieces of legislation to stop the butchery of minor children. And this is what they warn citizens of Canada. Hey, if you go to the United States, just be forewarned. If you're gay, but you see how this evolves? And this is another one of those cultural buzzsaws that if Republicans don't get out in front of it, this is how this stuff sticks. The Hill just reports this and says this like this makes sense, like this is real news now. Canada's government issues a warning, and the Hill just says, yep, well, you know, they have a point. I mean, there have been 500 bills passed in 500 bills introduced in 46 states. Anti-LGBTQ state legislation. It's not anti-LGBTQ. None of this legislation is anti any of it. It is pro-minor child protection. But just like abortion, this is where Republicans do the right thing, but Democrats cravenly message better. And so before you know it, the right thing was done, but ill-informed people who don't pay attention to the news, the left, before we can even get up and put our pants on for the day, the left has taken what was just and right and correct and manipulated it and turned it into the Republicans hate gays and blacks, and they want to chain women to the base to the kitchen and keep them pregnant. It's remarkable, really, because there's no one. It polls outrageously high. The support for laws to stop the butchery of children is through the roof with support. Like, it's not even it's a total bipartisan winning issue. Should we not take minor children and pump them full of chemically castrating drugs? Should we not take minor children and cut off their healthy body parts? Can we all agree we should not do that? And the overwhelming, I think the last poll I saw, it was in the 70s at least, maybe close to 80. The last poll I saw that said, yeah, overwhelmingly, the American people say, no, we shouldn't do that. This is being spun now by the Canadian government and mainstream media as anti-LGBTQIA plus laws. Travel advisories. It's getting interesting in New York. Eric Adams is firing at his governor, Hochul. Eric Adams is the mayor of New York, Hochul the governor of New York. Adams, New York City, I should say. Adams wants Hochul to cap the number of migrants being sent. Adams is criticizing Hochul's position that New York City, very specifically. Sorry, I've got this backwards. Hochul wants him to cap the number of migrants. Nope, sorry, I had it right the first time. Adams is sending people out of New York City to other parts of the state. Hochul wants Adams to keep the migrants in the city. By the way, I don't know if you've seen the footage of this. They're descending into full-blown internecine warfare in New York City now. Have you seen these street fights?
Oh, it's getting very, very bad.
Yeah, this fall is. I would not recommend going to see Cats on Broadway. Just that's all I'll tell you. This is not good for tourism. I don't think Cats is still on Broadway, but you get my point. Don't go, because this is getting nasty. And Adams is so overrun with illegals now. So these people are being put on buses and sent from Texas to New York City. They're being dropped off. Adams is overrun. So he's getting buses, and he's putting them back on buses and shipping them out into rural New York. And Hochul's catching hell because the rest of rural New York is really pretty lovely. Like most states, like Pennsylvania and just about any other state you visit, the urban core major metropolitan cities are dumps, and the rest of the state is beautiful and oftentimes rural and pleasant. And so now these urban hellholes like New York City are rounding up these people and shipping them out to the very lovely, pleasant, leafy suburbs and small communities where there's money and people are civilized and laws are being obeyed. These communities are getting overrun, and they're ringing Hochul's bell about it at the Capitol. They're in Albany, and now Hochul's getting mad at Adams, saying, would you stop it? Deal with it there in New York City. He's like, no, we're all in this together. I think this is rich, and this is one of the more effective things. You know, we dump on the Republicans a lot, but one of the most effective things the Republicans ever did was when the decision was made to start making this blue states problems by shipping these illegals from their states up to the blue states and the blue cities. In doing that single-handedly changed this discussion. And you'll note that the media doesn't really talk a lot about this anymore. You have to really dig and pay close attention to even find stories like what's going on in New York City right now. Anarchy. Physical fights in the streets. I mean, they're like citizens of New York State and city, legal citizens are getting furious at the thousands of illegals that are pouring in, laying around, taking up space. They're spilling into Long Island. I got a couple of friends that live in Long Island. It's always been considered sort of a blue-collar, working class. Long Island, Festetti, is a lot like the Northeast always had been. Sort of, Northeast, whatever happened to so much of Philadelphia, you could always rely on the fact that the Northeast was blue-collar, working class. People looked out for themselves. People looked out for their friends and neighbors. The neighborhoods were well kept. People had jobs. There wasn't trash. There wasn't crime. That was always considered a reliably solid part of the city for a very long time, the Northeast, right? That's Long Island to Manhattan, if you will. Well, now Adams is starting to shove these migrants out of New York City proper and on to Long Island and all. They're furious. No, it's like a total meltdown in New York. Nobody's talking about it, of course. And that's all courtesy of Southern Republican governors who are. I just love it. I think it's great. I didn't get to this story yesterday either, and I meant to. The problem is it's visual, but there's another symbol out there. There's an Oliver Anthony who has risen again, and this time it's in the form of a middle school boy, a 12-year-old. This kid is starting to show up now as a meme everywhere. The kid with the "Don't Tread on Me" patch on his backpack. I'm sure you've heard of him or seen of him by now. But it typifies sort of the state of K through 12 education in this country right now. Colorado middle schooler reportedly kicked out of class for having several patches on his backpack, one of them the Gadsden flag. Don't tread on me. You've seen it. Yellow, the snake, in sections and chunks. The 12-year-old student at the Vanguard School ordered, it's not a private school, it's a, what's the word? It's escaping me now.
Charter?
Charter, thank you. That's my word.
Yeah.
Charter, which is an offshoot of public schools. It's not a purely private school, just to be clear here. The Vanguard School was ordered to remove the patch of the flag, which features the coiled rattlesnake and "Don't Tread on Me," which you all understand. The administrator at the public charter school tells the boy's mom that he cannot display the patch due to the flag's origins with slavery and the slave trade. However, the mom replies the Gadsden flag's origins can actually be traced back to the Revolutionary War and not slavery, which is historically accurate. And you're sitting here watching this video, if you saw it. Mom was savvy enough to roll her phone as they're sitting down for the meeting. The kid is priceless. If you've seen the video, the 12-year-old kid is sitting there listening to his teacher blather on about how the Gadsden flag patch is a symbol of slavery. Have you seen the kid smirking? The 12-year-old with the knowing smirk at the moron teacher. It's everything without saying a word. You watch an informed 12-year-old citizen of the United States smiling, knowingly smiling, that the woman that's supposed to be his educator is a blithering idiot. And he doesn't say a word. He's just smiling because he knows how ill-informed and ignorant she is, and he knows that his mother's about to dress her down for it. It's a wonder. It really is a wonderful video. And it made this woman, this teacher, who calls them into the office and orders that the flag patch be removed, makes her look like a stone-cold moron. This woman has probably got to be, if she's any kind of self-respecting educator, she's got to be humiliated because this thing's gone just all over and just viral. Well, anyway, the Vanguard School and the governor, by the way, who's a Democrat, the governor of Colorado, have both come out since this story became so public and went so viral, and both said, Gadsden flag doesn't have anything to do with slavery. The patch is cool. It's a Revolutionary War thing, and we're all still pro-Revolutionary War here, so the patch can stay. Sorry about that. The Vanguard School, we here officially say the patch. So this 12-year-old, have you seen the memes already? This 12-year-old in the backpack now is in memes. It's great. He's like an Oliver Anthony meme now. Excellence in dentistry. That's what you're going to get at Williamsburg Dental. My friend Bob Spinato is back on the phone. He's in Broomall, just off the Blue Route. And with 2 new associates, now you can expand and offer more hours, maybe evening hours, possibly weekends, Bob.
Yeah, one of the things that I told them from early on when they started with me was the value of not only their own time, but other people's times. And they run on a similar schedule that I do. If you've got a 1 o'clock appointment, you're in their chair at 1 o'clock. And it's something that across the board at Williamsburg Dental, we really pride ourselves on, whether it's an appointment with the hygienist or whether it's an appointment with one of our doctors. The other thing is we now have some expanded hours in the evenings, and even there's some discussion about opening again on some Saturdays for services.
Yeah, but not you. You're fishing. You're not kidding anybody. It's not you going to be working on Saturday. Come on, Stu.
Well, I'm in my 33rd year, and it should be the young guns.
That's right. You've earned it. You've earned it.
I feel like I have. Thank you.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. By the way, the kid that I was mentioning earlier, the Gadsden flag kid, the 12-year-old, he's having fun with this, that he's gone viral. This is Jaden is his name. Listen.
Hey guys, today was a good day, kind of. When I got to school, the kids were really hyped up because they saw me on Twitter, and kids are putting "Don't tread on me" on their locker. Well, at least my new made friends, because I'm big on Twitter, and now they like me all of a sudden. But the teachers, on the other hand, I got some dirty looks, that's for sure. They're definitely not happy with me. But other than that, it was pretty good. I was on the Charlie Kirk show, and Ben Shapiro had me. It was a really good day, in my opinion. Well, have a good day, y'all.
I was on the Charlie Kirk show. Ben Shapiro had me on. Pretty good day. All the kids are putting patches on their bags. I got the skunk eye from teachers, but that's okay. That's a badge of honor. 12-year-old Jaden. Fantastic. All right, the hurricane that rolled through Florida, it's already moved on. It did share a good amount of damage, though. Let's go to DeSantis, who's warning people. I do love this from DeSantis. He warned this during the last hurricane. Don't you think about stealing people's stuff while their property's abandoned, or else.
Trying to loot down in Steinhatchee. And I've told all of our personnel at the state level, you protect people's property, and we are not going to tolerate any looting in the aftermath of a natural disaster. I mean, it's just ridiculous that you would try to do something like that on the heels of an almost Category 4 hurricane hitting this community. I'd also just remind potential looters that people, you never know what you're walking into. People have a right to defend their property. This part of Florida, you got a lot of advocates and some proponents of the Second Amendment. And I've seen signs in different people's yards in the past after these disasters, and I would say it's probably here. You loot, we shoot. You never know what's behind that door. If you go break into somebody's house and you're trying to loot, these are people that are going to be able to defend themselves and their families. So I would not do it. We are going to hold you accountable from a law enforcement perspective at a minimum, and it could even be worse than that, depending on what's behind that door. So let's all band together and lift people up and not try to take advantage of a difficult situation.
Now, you loot, we shoot. Wonderful slogan, by the way. Love it. That reminds me of something that was in the news not too terribly long ago. You know what that is? You loot, we shoot. You know what that reminds me of? Try that in a small town. That's what that is. Remember when everybody said that was a racist song? It's not racist. And by the way, I'm sure if they haven't yet, they're going to try because, Ron DeSantis has a curriculum, they say, that teaches that slavery's okay. That's been the dig on him. I'm sure in time, if they haven't already, him saying you loot, we shoot is going to be somehow branded as racist. Have they already written that yet? Keep a sharp eye for it. If they haven't, they're probably typing on it right now.
I was going to say, Florida's clearer, and it's going into Carolina. They still got weather madness for the next few days, I think, so they'll get to it.
Just, keep a sharp eye for you loot, we shoot being a new racist wink, dog whistle from Ron DeSantis. No, it's what try that in a small town is. These people say, we look out for our own. You're not going to come in and take advantage of us while we're vulnerable. Like, we're not going to just lay around and take it. You're going to get your hide blown off if you come and try to steal our stuff. I like it. That's the way people who are self-interested and care for their communities roll. The Husk went down there and told his stupid house catching on fire story again. Twice. So he's tried it in Hawaii and already been excoriated for it. This is what's sort of amazing to me is I know, well, I shouldn't say I know. Do you think the Husk pays attention to the news? Or do you think he's just so checked out he really doesn't know? There's a possibility that this guy genuinely doesn't know or care what's going on around him. To such a degree, he shuffles in and shuffles out and mutters what's written on cards and teleprompters for him. And he literally, other than his pudding and, Andy Griffith reruns on WeTV or MeTV, whatever they call it, he doesn't know. It's highly possible he doesn't watch news, read social media. I'm almost sure he's not on social media. So do you think he is unaware that he just told this story in Hawaii and got eviscerated for telling it? Do you think he forgot he told it? Do you think he doesn't know people hear him? Do you think in his mind he operates back in 1960 where there wasn't 24/7 media everywhere all the time sharing his every word? Is it all of those? All of the above? I'm really trying to understand it. He just told this house fire story in Maui, and it got ripped to shreds as a total lie. His house did not burn to the ground. It was a kitchen fire. And the audacity to stand there in front of citizens of Hawaii who have lost everything, their homes and hundreds of bodies burned to a crisp, and he stands there and tells this ridiculous story about almost losing his Camaro and almost losing his cat. When in fact, no, he didn't. It was a kitchen fire. So he's ripped to shreds about the story, right? He goes down to Florida in front of hurricane victims and does it again.
I didn't know anything like that, but lightning struck my house. We had to be out of that house for about 7 months while it was repaired because so much damage was done to the house and half the house almost collapsed.
It's a bold-faced lie. It didn't happen. I vacillate. Sometimes I think I can't give him this much credit because I don't think he is lucid enough to do it. Sometimes I think, is he goading us? Is he actually is he doing this on purpose because we know he's lying and he thinks it's funny to get us upset? Or does he not know or think that people fact check him or play his every word on loops and regularly scrutinize it and it's passed around social media? Does he not know? because he comes from a different era where you can make speeches all over the place and nobody knows what you've said. Which do you think it is, Fast Eddie? Purposely goading or just completely self-unaware of the 2023 reality in which we live?
Biden of old, I would absolutely say self-goading. I just think he's completely out of it, Chris. He's handed a note card with giant letters, and that's what he does.
Yeah, he really is not thinking, I just told this story and I got raked over the coals about it before. He's not even thinking about it. He's
I don't think so.
Digging into the limited memory well he has left to try to connect in a tragedy as best he sees fit. Okay. Asked about Ron DeSantis, the Husk was, and if, you're down here with your really keen, sharp leadership senses, Joe Biden. Reuters wants to know, Jeff Mason from Reuters wants to know, you're a good, honest public servant who would never be craven, who would never take an opportunity to turn something like a storm into politics because you're a good, decent, honest patriot. But have you seen any signs, President Biden, of Ron DeSantis politicizing this event? He's running for president,
Mr. President, Governor DeSantis is also running for president. You are running for re-election. Do you sense any politics in your conversations with him about this issue?
No, believe it or not, I know that sounds strange, especially how the nature of politics today. But, I was down there when the last major storm. I spent a lot of time with him, walking from village from community to community.
Village.
Making sure he had what he needed to get it done. I think he trusts my judgment and my desire to help. And I trust him to be able to suggest that this is not about politics. It's about taking care of the people of the state.
They walked from village to village together, and he assures reporters there's no politics in it. Village to village. I think that answers my question. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. Do you sense any politics? Well, Jeff Mason from Reuters, why do you think the Husk is down there? You think he's helping? You think his presence down there is getting a damn thing accomplished? Do you think... By the way, Peter Doocy just slapped the White House on this yesterday. Boy, you're right on it on Florida. Is that because the Husk is back from vacation? Is it... So when tragedies happen, should states hope that if natural disasters occur in their state, it doesn't happen while the Husk is on vacation?
It seems like the hurricane response so far is robust. Did you guys realize that the initial Hawaii wildfire response was not that good? Or is it just easier for people to get help from the White House when the president is not on vacation?
So the premise of your question and the way you posed your question, I disagree, just for the record.
Yeah, I don't care what she answers. You should have seen Peter Alexander from NBC News, who's seated next to Peter Doocy when he asked it, kind of gave the eyebrow raise like, damn. It's just true. The Husk was on vacation. Here's another thing. Florida, they believe they can flip. They think, Florida wasn't that, it wasn't too long ago Florida was a purple state, and they don't want to botch Florida. They don't want to botch the response there. Hawaii, who cares? To the education stack. Talked to you a little earlier about the Gadsden flag kid who's become a viral sensation, smirking as his teacher scolds him about the Gadsden flag being a racist symbol. He's now become his own viral star. He's 12, the backpack kid. Shapiro and Kirk have him on. He's having a great day out there. He says, I got the skunk eye from some teachers, but I'm on the Charlie Kirk show, so I'm feeling pretty good about life. Kids love, I tell you what, young kids, young 12-year-olds, they love Shapiro and Kirk. Just love them. I love them. Ben Shapiro in particular, I have to give him credit. Young men gravitate to Ben Shapiro, and I admire it. I mean, I watch it with great interest. What do you think it is? Can you? Because I'm not saying I don't care for their shows. I think they're brilliant guys. I just what is it they possess, do you think? Is it because they look young, they sound young? What is it?
Well, you figure Shapiro's like the opposite of the Bongino type of personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing
they're not machismo. They're not thumping their chests and being tough guys, right? They're pretty brainy, I think. They're intellectuals. Yes.
And that's the thing. It's if you can slap someone around intellectually the way that Ben Shapiro does sometimes, that is very, I mean, it's a sight to behold. Sometimes in 2 minutes, it's like, whoa, like he just made the left look really stupid. I think kids like that.
Kids see that and they think to themselves, man, I wish I could dance on the head of a pin like that rhetorically in a verbal joust. That's what excites them about them. Okay.
I think so.
Interesting. I credit them. Like, I'm so glad that they are in the fight, if you will, and that young people, my sons included, watch them and find them very interesting. And I haven't really asked or researched why, and I didn't know if it was just strictly because they look like younger guys doing it, or if there's something more. It always interests me. But other update news from the education stack, Philadelphia Public Schools has just released their COVID protocol. As students prepare for another year of school, Philadelphia has now released their COVID protocols for the 2023-2024 school year. Masking will be optional for students and staff, except when determined necessary to fight an outbreak. Those who have been exposed to COVID will be encouraged to wear a mask for 10 days. Students who test positive will be required to isolate at home for at least 5 days and participate in virtual learning. They will also need to wear a mask for 5 days after returning, Fast Eddie. Now, we already learned earlier in the week that you put those masks on, you're sucking toxins that create cancer and organ failure. The NIH has released that study, incidentally. So not only do they not work, but they're continuing to double down on this in Philadelphia schools. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure that this mayor's checked out, so you have to think his health department is giving the full guidance on this one.
Also, drones, non-invasive gun detection at all Philadelphia middle schools. More modern cameras, off-duty city police stationed outside schools when stations warrant them. City and school district officials this week said students and family will see beefed-up security at Philadelphia school as the Philadelphia schools prepare to open their 216 schools on Tuesday. In the last year, 199 public school students were shot, 33 killed. Sobering figures, says the superintendent. So minimally invasive gun detection, Fast Eddie. Despite metal detectors at every city high school, far too many weapons made their way into city schools over the last 2 years, said the super. 18 in total. To that end, Bethel ran a pilot program at 2 middle schools last year using minimally invasive gun detection. Essentially, it's a tool that uses AI, artificial intelligence, to scan students as they walk in the building. Not a metal detector. Students don't have to remove their bags or be searched. Instead, they walk between 2 parallel poles and test. Safety officers are alerted if a weapon is detected. What do you think about that?
I mean, I guess you have to keep, if they haven't done that before and they did the pilot program last year, I mean, how are we going to keep kids safe in Philly public schools? Sad.
Penridge. The Penridge School District out there in Bucks County. This is very interesting. The board out there apparently approved. I don't even know how this. I guess there are a bunch of left-wing parents out there in Bucks County that are ready to light the district on fire because they approved a Hillsdale College-based curriculum for history. I have 2 different headlines. I was sitting on this for a while, but I have 2 headlines now. One from a couple of days ago and one from yesterday. The first one was Penridge educators warn they aren't ready to teach a curriculum crafted by a Hillsdale College-connected consultant. I mean, the Philadelphia Inquirer with a lengthy write-up about how deeply concerned and who are the shadowy figures and what were the costs behind Hillsdale infiltrating The Penridge School District and teaching history from Hillsdale. Ooga booga! And we've done our deep dive dig into who is Hillsdale. You'll note there's not that kind of curiosity when the bowling alley waitress, Attorney General's son-in-law, is implementing all of his left-wing rot into our public schools across the country on DEI and CRT. They're not digging around in the math and who's behind those, are they? Never. Well, a follow-up to this story over the outrage of community members who say Penridge was pushing a political agenda into classrooms. You can't make it up. The school board approved this week a new curriculum crafted by a consultant with ties to conservative Hillsdale College. A directive that one resident called disgusting. The Republican-led board. Do you ever hear Democrat-led school board? Do you ever read that written? The Democrat-led school board? No, but you read it here. The Republican-led Penridge School Board delayed implementation of the elementary social studies curriculum for 1 year, acknowledging teachers worried they didn't have time to prepare with school already underway. I wonder how much time teachers are given to embrace gender ideology and diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, for instance, California Attorney General sues Chino Valley Unified School District over gender notification policy. This is very similar to what happened in New Jersey, as you know. A judge issues a stay against 3 school districts who said, we're not doing this. We're not going to keep children's gender identity a secret from their parents. If a kid comes to you and says they want to be a different gender, you're to notify the parents at once. Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, sues the school districts and says, no, we're going to keep secrets from parents. Got it? And a judge basically took his side. Well, here you go in California. The attorney general there announced a lawsuit this week against the Chino Valley School District over the same thing. But God forbid you bring in Hillsdale College to teach a little history. Mike Lindell and MyPillow. What a great patriot. One guy that, for sure, everything he makes, everything he sells, you can guarantee not made in China. Nope, not at all. Now, look, he does sell a delicious coffee. He obviously is not growing the coffee beans here. So, full disclosure, that's maybe one of the few things at MyPillow that you won't find domestically grown, but certainly packaged and shipped as our MyPillow and the coffee specifically, the pods, the ground, and the beans. We order them here and drink it at the office regularly. I'm enjoying some this morning, as a matter of fact. The MyPillow products, which I was not I didn't own or possess any of them until this year, to be perfectly candid with you. And Mike and I partnered together to start talking about them, and so I ordered a few things. I ordered the Giza Dream Sheets. I ordered that 3-foot body pillow that MyPillow makes. I sleep with it every night. I love it. As a side sleeper, it's the best. I rest my arm and elbow on it and put my knee up on it. It's like it gives great support if you're somebody that, you know, is a side sleeper like I am. The MyPillow 2.0, here's the deal. You'll get up to 80% just by using my name as a promo code when you go to MyPillow.com and type Chris. But on the MyPillow 2.0 specifically, this is covered in a fabric that's heat dissipating, so it keeps you cooler all night long if you're somebody that kind of runs hot at night. You'll get a second MyPillow 2.0 for free if you use my name, Chris, when you order one. And the mattress topper, which listeners have told me is like reinvigorating your mattress. It's like a brand new mattress at a fraction of the price. Mike's going to ship you that mattress topper for free if you order it. It's also covered in that same 2.0 material to keep you cool all night long. So whether it's the Giza Dream Sheets, the MyPillow 2.0, the mattress topper, the blanket. We just ordered a new waffle woven blanket from MyPillow, and we love it. Dean loves his MyPillow dog bed. Yeah, we're MyPillowed out at Stately Stigall Manor, and I hope you'll check it out too, with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee on everything you order. I know you're going to be very, very satisfied with the MyPillow products. It's like a mall online there. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-932-5056. 800-932-5056, and remember the promo code Chris to save big money. Last time we talked to this lady was, I believe, on Radio Row at CPAC, if memory serves. She is the news-making, history-making Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. She has a brand new book called How Sweet It Is, Defending the American Dream. She's Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears, and she joins us again. Miss Sears, it's a real pleasure to have you back.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to you and your listeners.
You are someone who I've died to pick the brain of since I started thinking about the last couple of weeks. A friend of mine reached out to me, Lieutenant Governor Sears, and said he believes that Republicans have a unique issue with women. And while I'm not fond of discussing identity politics, I couldn't help but note Nikki Haley was the only one on that Republican debate stage last week who I thought really nimbly discussed the issue of abortion. And so I defer to you as a woman. Do you think women need to take the lead in having a national discussion on this issue as we head into another election year?
I'm not so sure about that. What I'm sure of is that the birth of a child concerns us all when you think about it.
Yes.
Children are the future of any nation. You see that China, with its one child policy, decided that, well, maybe we ought to have 2 or 3, and goodness gracious, they should have known that a country cannot build without the new generation. So I think we all want to come together and figure out how do we navigate this, because without, again, children in any country in our lives, what hope is there?
Yeah.
You see how we react when there's a birth of a child, and we've got to make sure we have policies that encourage families.
I mean, Ralph Northam, the immediate previous governor to your governor at present, Ralph Northam of Virginia, famously said on a radio interview that, we got to make babies comfortable should they survive an attempted abortion and you want to continue the abortion, kill the baby, make them comfortable before taking their lives. How grisly.
And here's the thing. He is, by the way, a pediatric doctor. And the fact that he came on national radio and said that, well, after the child is born, we're going to keep the baby comfortable until the parents decide what to do. What in the world? What are you talking about? The baby is already here. And so when Nikki Haley said that what we ought to ask the Democrats is, what is your limit? Is it abortion up until the day that the baby is born, and then you just leave the baby on the table to die? Is that the nation we're coming to? So yes, it is important that we discuss it. And I think she was one of the adults in the room.
Winsome Sears is with us, the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, author of a brand new book called How Sweet It Is, Defending the American Dream. You have also served in the Marines, and I am curious your assessment militarily, I guess is the word. Our branches of the military today, as I understand it, everyone that I've spoken to says recruitment numbers are down. A lot of people are generally curious about our readiness overall. Do you have any close associations still, and what's your read?
Well, again, you have to look at the political leader to determine where the country is going, because as the leader goes, so goes the nation, which I guess is one reason why the Lord talked to Solomon when he gave him in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name. And so you would think that in bringing a message like that, the Lord should have really spoken to the priest to go give a moral message to the political leader, but he came to the political leader himself. And when you have a commander-in-chief that we have in President Biden, who says things that really are against the military, in my opinion, when you have policies that make us look small, when you make us have policies that make us look weak, then the people who have been fighting these fights, the military, they wonder, well, did my fellow soldiers and sailors and Marines, airmen, did they give their lives in vain? They've seen their comrades, as the other side would say, blown up. they've seen them blown up, and for what? And they're suffering from PTSD. They have the disabilities of their own. Their families are suffering alongside them because, military men and women, their families really serve with them. When they sacrifice, the families sacrifice as well. And so it's no wonder that morale is low. It's no wonder that recruitment numbers are down, because you need to have faith in your commander in chief if you're going to serve.
You and the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, Miss Sears, you made huge news with your respective wins in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it was largely based on the issue of education. You served, as I read your bio, as the vice president of the Virginia State Board of Education. Is education still a white-hot issue in Virginia, and do you still see it as a pathway forward in messaging for the Republican Party at large across the country? Would you still counsel Republicans to dig in and talk to their constituents on this issue?
Yes, because, listen, in Virginia, we could not have won had Democrats and independents not jumped ship and voted for us, because we're pretty much even, and so is the country, I think, by the way. And so we had to convince people, and didn't take a whole lot of convincing, because you can talk party politics all you want, but when it comes to my child, then loyalty is another thing. I'm loyal to my child, and it is my job as the parent to ensure that they have a good footing in life so that they can be successful. And one of that, the foundation of that is a good education. And that's what we're seeing that the children aren't getting, because the school boards have other agendas. And it seems that these agendas are against parents. And so if you fight for the children by fighting for the parents' rights to raise their children in an environment where they're learning, then I think you can't ever go wrong. It's either the teachers' unions or the parents, and we're going to stand for the parents every single time.
I know you've seen the story, Montgomery County, Maryland, and the judge who basically said parents' religious liberties don't apply. They cannot opt out or object to an LGBTQ curriculum in these schools. I mean, that's, and you've seen the governor of New Jersey. We're seeing in California, they're actively suing school boards who say you got to notify parents if kids are starting to talk about gender issues. To think that a governor of a state would sue school boards to maintain secrets between students and parents, Lieutenant Governor Sears, it's a stunning development.
Well, I don't think we should be so surprised, because in Maryland, they're pretty much majority Democrats. And so most of the school boards are as well. And think about this. Hillary, you mentioned the religious beliefs. Remember what Hillary said, that they would have to, the Democrats would have to, how did she put it? Disabuse us of our deep-seated religious beliefs in order to make sure that abortion is all up until whenever, no limits. So here it is. It's come full circle. This is their plan, you see, and I'm saying that we really need to keep fighting for parents, because, Chris, think about this. If parents have the ability to choose whatever school that their children should attend, then if I go, now that I have my tax money and I can do whatever I want, so I go to interview a school as a parent. I bring my children and we sit down, and the school administrator says, look, we're going to make policies that are against you. Little Johnny's going to be able to dress in whatever gender that he wants, and we're not going to tell you anything that's happening, and just drop him off and act, and then pick him up. Your rights really stop at the school door. You know what you're going to say? Kids, get up, we're leaving. That's what we need. If we have competition in education, then people are going to get a grip and realize, oh, you mean that parental thing? You really wanted to be involved in your children's education? That's what we need, competition in education.
You have You've been in academics. Like I said, you're a Marine. Lieutenant governor, entirely different kettle of fish. I wonder now that you've spent some time in the office, have you gained some perspective? Have you learned some things that either maybe you didn't see coming or have sharpened your sensibilities politically a little bit? What have you learned from this post thus far?
Well, I was elected 22 years ago to the Virginia House of Delegates. It's our House of Representatives. So I was a legislator way back then, and really nothing very much has changed. It's still a leadership post. It's just a bigger canvas, if you will. And half of the people who were elected way back then, when I was serving with them, they're still here.
Yeah, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing? I think you're saying it's not a good thing.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, because the saying is that term limits are good, because then it forces politicians to go back, into regular life. But then at the same time, what happens is then the staff, the bureaucrats who are now the knowledge keepers, they're the ones who rule. So I don't know. I think there's some truth to, we do need term limits. I'm not sure where the limits are.
Well, may I ask on that front, may I ask you just a broader question? Sorry to interrupt you. When we see, and if this sounds ageist, forgive me, I don't mean to sound ageist, but let's just be clear. When you see the likes of Joe Biden, who seems at best impaired, when you see Mitch McConnell yesterday seize and freeze up for a second time in public, Dianne Feinstein, who quite literally doesn't seem to remember where she is, John Fetterman, I mean, what are we to make of that, Lieutenant Governor Sears?
Well, there is something to that, and I would hope that they come to a conclusion that would be good for the country. So we'll see. But, it could happen to any of us. I mean, we're all prone to strokes and heart attacks and whatever else, and let's just hope that we do whatever is right for the country.
That brings me to one last question. I'll let you run. Everybody wants to know. I asked you this when we were talking at CPAC. People are interested in your future and I assume you're not done with politics yet. Can we make that safe assumption if you don't want to specify where you might be headed next?
I want to say that I am not done with politics in the sense that I'm focused on winning back the Senate. We have to win back the Senate, and then we have to keep the House, because if we don't win back the Senate, then unfortunately the Democrats who are coming in are very far left, and they'll be emboldened, and it'll be worse. It'll be very hostile. And we've got to make sure that we have a Senate that we can work with in order to get done, what we need done, which is to make sure law enforcement understands that they're appreciated, because we've got to have safe neighborhoods. That businesses understand that they're welcome here, because all the beautiful things that we like, the roads, the bridges, the schools, they pay for that because they're the job creators. And then we want to make sure that the teachers who want to teach, they love the profession. It's what, they went to school for, that they understand that we're supporting of them, and we want them to stay. Our children must have a hope in a future. And so that's what I hope in my book I bring, that you can continue to rise from the ashes. And I talk about all of that, that life isn't just a smooth path. You just got to keep getting up. We can't be victims. And then I talk about some of the political stuff that has happened to me over the years being a Black Republican. You can imagine.
Just to be clear, you guys do it a little differently than a lot of states. In Virginia, one term. Glenn Youngkin has 1 4-year term. That's it. And then he's out. And that means somebody's got to take that job. A lot of people wonder if you're thinking about it. Are you thinking about it?
Chris, I'm going to stick with what I'm talking about. And that we have to focus.
All right.
Focus, Chris.
Let me ask you one more question, because I know some of this audience, and you understand, this is a tense time in the Republican ranks because there's a heated primary. I think you've already been pretty clear. A lot of people know that you're not necessarily a fan of a second term of Donald Trump. So setting that aside, who in this field have you endorsed or are you endorsing in this Republican race?
No, I'm staying out of it. I'm staying out of it. I'm watching it just like everybody else, and hoping that whoever we nominate will be able to win the general election, because if you can win the primary, but you can't win the general, then it will be for naught, because we'll either have Biden, or if the Democrats realize that Biden isn't up to the task, then they'll nominate somebody else. And that's the thing, we have to continue to keep our eyes on November. November is the prize. It's not the primary.
And just to be clear, you've gone on record, I think, as saying you don't think Donald Trump could win a general election.
Well, as I said, it's just like in Virginia, where we are pretty much like a 50-50. So you need independents, and you need Democrats who will vote for you. And if they don't have any confidence in you, then we're not going to win. So we have to be very prayerful about this, watch who our leaders are, so that we can nominate someone who can win in November. November of 2024, we want to have victory. We don't want to say we lost again. We can't continue to lose. The country loses because the other side, they divide us. We can't be them.
Winsome Sears' brand new book is called How Sweet It Is, Defending the American Dream. Okay, this really is my last question. Your favorite scripture. I know you're a Christian. You're a devout Christian, and I want to know what is it that you get up and regularly either pray over or think about? What gives you hope? What calms you?
Well, it changes from time to time depending on what you're dealing with at the time. But the one constant, I think, and it's what I used as my scripture for my campaign, is for lieutenant governor, and it was Psalm 133 and verse 1. How good and pleasant it is when brothers live together in peace and harmony. And I think that's good for everywhere and for everyone. Who wants to live a life of strife and hostility and divisiveness and neighbor against neighbor and family? And no, we want to live in peace so that we can have our children have a bright future. After all.
Thank you so much for your availability and time, Winsome Sears. The book, again, pick it up. How Sweet It Is. This is a fascinating life, a resume, a family of immigrants, of service. I could talk to you forever, and I really appreciate your time. How Sweet It Is, Defending the American Dream. Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears. Thank you so much.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.